Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Read Aloud with Zach Sly. We're starting on page 36. Now, where we just ended, their mom had talked with their dad, and they've kind of decided what needs to happen. She knows a little bit more about what their dad has done and how they're going to proceed. Something that we ended with is that the Drug Enforcement Agency said, yeah, we let Bender through. And they're like, but how did he know where we were? So they're realizing they may be in a little bit more trouble than they want to be in. So now we're starting. It is italicized. So that means that Zach is writing, or I guess he's Jack at this point. You'll see what I mean. But when Mom came back into the waiting room, I could tell she had been crying. I asked about Dad. She didn't answer me. Joanne asked her about the interview with Agent Pelton. She said she would talk to us about it tomorrow. I have a very bad feeling. It's hard to believe, but I think the worst is still to come. So now we're back to the book. The phone next to Patricia Osborne's bed rang at 3 a.m. It was Agent Pelton. I think it's time for you to change hotels, he said. Half awake, she looked out the window. Can't we at least wait until it's light out? The kids are still sleeping. No. An inconspicuous van without passenger windows picked them up in the back of the hotel. We sent a decoy family out a few minutes ago, Agent Pelton informed them, just in case. This had been an unnecessary precaution. When the van pulled away from the hotel, Barry Jones and Paul Snyder were sound asleep in the front seat of their car. After a short drive, the van turned off the road and came to a stop. When the Osbornes got out, they were surprised to find themselves in their own garage. June Saunders was waiting for them. Standing next to her was a man and woman they had not met. Agent Pelton introduced them. This is Doris Welty and Donald Smites. They're United States Marshals. Doris smiled. We'll be spending a lot of time together during the next few weeks. We're handling all the details of your relocation. It might be awkward for you kids to call us Marshal Welty and Marshal Smites, so why don't you just call us Uncle Don and Aunt Doris? Relocation? Jack looked at his mother with confusion. What's going on, Mom? Your father has decided to cooperate with the Drug Enforcement Agency, she said. He's going to tell them what he knows. After he's been assured that you're all safe, June added. What does this have to do with us? Joanne asked. Let's go into the house, Agent Pelton suggested. They sat down at the kitchen table. We're putting you into the witness security program, Uncle Don explained. That means we'll be providing you with new identities. You'll be moving to a new home, attend new schools. Joanne looked at her mother in shock. You knew about this? I knew it was a possibility, she answered, but I didn't know it would happen so soon. It's much better if we move quickly, Uncle Don added. We decided to take advantage of the hotel change by letting you tag all the things you wanted us to move. I don't understand, Joanne said. As soon as they figure out that you aren't at the hotel anymore, they might stake out the house. We aren't going to give them that chance. We were being watched at the hotel, Jack asked. We don't know, Agent Pelton said, but we're assuming you were. These people are professionals and have the best surveillance equipment that money can buy. After you've tagged all your things, we'll take you to the hotel out of town, Uncle Don continued. You'll be there until you're relocated, Doris said. From this point on, you can't contact anyone. What about our friends? Joanne asked. Aunt Doris shook her head. I know this is hard, but it's the only way to keep you safe. Hard? Jack thought. This is impossible. It is a nightmare. For how long? It's permanent, Uncle Don said. Jack stared at him in stunned silence as this sunk in, then looked at his mother. Why, Mom? We don't know anything. We didn't do anything wrong. Agent Pelton answered for Mrs. Osborne. I'm afraid that doesn't matter to these animals. They're after your father, and the only way to get to him is through you. But if Dad tells you what you want to know, why would they come after us? To make a statement, Agent Pelton said, to show their people what happens if they talk to us. What if you arrest them? Joanne asked. Do we get to come back then? Agent Pelton shook his head. I wish it were as simple as that. When your father tells us what he knows, the best we can do is stop some of the drugs they're sending across the border. We won't catch all the people running the ring. Most of them don't live in this country. They'll send people after you and your father. Men like the ones who broke into your house the other night. Maybe the same men. They'll pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars to hurt you. Aunt Doris put her hand on Joanne's shoulders. We can't keep you under protective custody forever, but we can hide you so securely that they'll never be able to find you. This can't be happening, Joanne began to cry. How could Dad do this to us? Patricia put her arms around her. Uncle Don stood up. We don't have a lot of time. We need to have you out of here before daybreak. He reached into his pocket and came out with a bunch of red tags. We have moving boxes upstairs. You'll need to pack your things and tag whatever you want to take. But I'm warning you, I don't know where you'll be moving to, but I can guarantee you it won't be as big as this place. You can't take it all with you. It didn't take Jack long to fill up 3 moving boxes with the things he wanted from his bedroom. He looked around at what was left and decided he didn't need another box. There was just one more item to pack. He slipped down the stairs and out the back door without anyone seeing him. He crossed the backyard, finding it difficult to believe that this was the last time he would ever go into his father's workshop. When he had completed his first journal, Jack had brought it to his father and asked where he should keep it. That's the problems with diaries, his father mused. How do you keep your private thoughts private after you write them down? I think we should build a special journal box. We'll put a lock on it and find the perfect place to stash it. They had spent the rest of the day and part of the next working on the box. It was made of varnished hardwood, deep enough to hold several journals. Jack's father put a clasp on the lid so the box could be locked, and as a final touch, he added a brass plate to the box engraved with the words, Jack in the Box. Very funny, Dad. I thought so too. Here's the key. His father gave him a chain with a key suspended on it. I'll keep a backup key in case you lose yours. Jack put the key around his neck. And I have the perfect place to hide the box, his father told him, squatting down on the floor in front of his workbench. If you undo these 2 screws, this front panel comes off. He handed Jack the screwdriver. Jack twisted the screws out. Underneath the panel was a small shelf. He slipped the box in and replaced the panel. There you go, his father smiled at him. But Jack was still not convinced. You know the secret place, and you have a key to the box. His father put his right hand over his heart and said, Jacko, I promise I will never read your diaries. Good enough? Good enough. And as far as Jack knew, his father had not broken that promise in the 5 years he had been using the Jack in the Box. When he turned the shop light on, he was relieved to see the panel was still in place and that the DEA had not found it. He unscrewed the panel. The box was exactly where he had left it 8 months earlier when he had put his last journal in it. Back inside the house, everyone was so busy packing they didn't even glance at the small wooden box he had under his arm. He took it up to his bedroom and put it in a cardboard moving box under Commander If's space shuttle. After everything was packed, the Osborns gathered in the empty kitchen with June Saunders. They stood for a long time without saying a word in place they had once considered the heart of their home. I guess this is it, June sighed. After this, we won't be able to have any more direct contact. If you need me, you'll have to go through the U.S. Marshals. Why? Patricia asked. You're my attorney. In case I'm being watched. They don't want me leading them to you. But Neil said you're the only one he trusts to tell him that we're safe. I've thought about that. When you think you're safe, just send me a simple postcard with nothing written on it. I've got just the thing, Jack said excitedly and ran back up to the box in his room. He came back to the kitchen holding a blank postcard he had gotten when he visited the Kennedy Space Center. On it was a photo of a space shuttle coming in for a landing. That'll do, June nodded. When you think everything's okay, send it to me. As soon as I get it, I'll go see Neil and tell him he can proceed. Patricia put the postcard into her purse. They're gone, Barry said into the phone. There was a very long pause or silence on the other line, followed by a simple question from Alonzo Aznar. When? We're not exactly sure, Barry said. They must have slipped out in the middle of the night. Paul and me couldn't cover all the exits by ourselves. You checked the house? Yeah, they're not there. By the looks of things, they're not going back. Not much left inside. I'll be in touch. Alonzo's next call was to Benjamin Bender. When that unpleasant conversation was over, Bender took a taxi to the Federal Detention Center to speak with his client, Neil Osborne. Our friend was quite impressed when he learned you spoke Spanish. Neil grinned. I bet he was. On a totally different subject, Bender added, it seems that your family unexpectedly checked out of their hotel. Checked out? Neil tried to act surprised. Our concern, Benjamin continued, is why they left the hotel. Your wife comes by to see you last night, and a few hours later, they leave? It's news to me. Pelton had told him that morning they had moved them. Neil hoped Alonzo didn't know where they were. What did you discuss during your visit? Bender asked. I spent the whole time trying to talk her into dumping June Saunders and letting you handle things. But she wouldn't go for it. She doesn't trust you. Do you? There's no one else I can trust. That's correct. Bender nodded in approval. She hasn't told anyone about her visitors. She knows what will happen if she talks. What are you getting at? We're wondering if you made a deal with the DEA in exchange for protecting your family. Not yet, Neil said, but I will if you lay a finger on my family again. We won't, as long as you do exactly what we say. Then we don't have a problem. Bender stared at Neil for a very long time. Neil met his gaze, but couldn't tell if Bender was buying his story or not. Chapter 6. So it's in the italics, so this is Jack writing in his journal. Thursday, August 17th. We are being kept like prisoners in our new hotel. They have taken the phones away. To remove the temptation, Aunt Doris told us. Uncle Don was a lot more blunt. You don't know anybody, and nobody knows you. What good is a phone? When the housekeeper comes to clean, we're shuffled into the adjoining room until she's finished. We never go outside, and the tans we got over the summer have faded to the color of egg salad. Things are weird, which Aunt Doris says is perfectly normal under the circumstances. I think the reason they've kept us here this long is so we'll be eager to start our new life. If I have to endure another day of indoctrination, as Uncle Don calls it, I might lose my mind. Day after day, hour after hour, we discuss our cover story, who to watch out for, and how to handle it if one of us slips up. A psychologist came by one day and interviewed us individually and in a group. Somehow she got me talking about my crepe truth skater days and seemed particularly interested in my wearing Joanne's red leotards. After this, I decided to skip mentioning Commander If, fearing Marshall's shrink would put me in a straitjacket. But the thing that's really bugging me is that Mom and Joanne never mention Dad anymore. It's like he never existed or something. Back to the book. Jack refused to dye his hair blonde. But we have to change your appearance, Aunt Doris said. It's for your own safety. No, Jack insisted. If you bleach my hair, I'll look like an albino. What kind of disguise is that? Aunt Doris shook her head. You're really missing the spirit of all this. Heather's coming by today to give you a hand, Uncle Don said. Heather? Jack's question was answered by a knock on the door. Heather was some kind of federal beautician. She came into the room pushing a trunk on wheels. It's makeover time! She gave them an enthusiastic smile, opened up her trunk, and pulled out a pile of fashion magazines. Your dreams are about to come true. The answer to Jack's dream was not in the trunk, unless Heather had the key to his father's cell hidden in there. His mother and sister were hesitant at first, but Heather won them over. Within minutes, the three of them were pointing at photographs and giggling as if they were at a slumber party. A vote was taken. The Grangers will be blue-eyed and blondes, Heather announced. Not this Granger, Jack thought, refusing to participate in the vote. He liked his brown hair and brown eyes. He sat in the corner and watched uncomfortably as Heather knit, combed, teased, and dyed his mother and sister. When Heather finished, they looked like twins. He would not have recognized them if he hadn't seen the transformation himself. And now for the final touch. Heather took out a small case filled with colored contact lenses. None of the Osborns wore glasses. With lenses in place, the Granger twins had matching blue eyes. You're next, Jack. He shook his head. You're not dyeing my hair blonde. Heather looked like he had slapped her in the face, but recovered quickly with a bright smile. The girls will go crazy over you. No. His mother ordered him into the adjoining room. Jack, you've got to go along with this. No, I don't. Please? What am I going to do when my real hair starts growing in? His hair was dark brown like his father's. You'll dye it like we do. It only takes a few minutes. There's nothing to it. Women do this all the time. I'm not a woman, and what about gym class? She stared at him, not understanding. Jack turned red with embarrassment as it finally dawned on her what she was talking about. Oh, she said. I see what you mean. They walked back into the other room. Heather cut Jack's hair, but she didn't dye it. Any of it. She taught him how to put in the blue contacts, which was not easy. Jack was used to having foreign objects anywhere near his eyes and blinked every time the contact came in for a landing. But Heather finally prevailed. He was now a blue-eyed boy. A week later, Uncle Don told them everything was in place for their relocation. They were leaving in the morning. From now on, you are the Grangers. I want you to use your new names even when you're talking privately to each other. And, Aunt Doris added, we've arranged to have you see your dad before you go. I don't want to see him, Wanda said. Aunt Doris looked confused, but it might be the last time for a very long time. I still don't want to, Wanda said angrily, and stamped into the adjoining room and slammed the door. I do, Zach said. It was all he had been thinking about for the past 3 weeks. 2 hours later, Zach and his mother were in a van and driven to the federal detention center. Agent Pelton led them down a hallway to a door with a uniformed guard standing in front of it. The guard opened the door and told them to go in. When they got inside, Zach's mother stayed near the door. I'll stand here, she said. Zach stared at his father with alarm. He was pale and had lost a lot of weight. He wore a bright orange short-sleeved jumpsuit. Silver manacles were locked around his wrists and ankles. He was seated at a metal table with green enamel top. His leg manacles ran through an eye bolt screwed into the floor so he couldn't get off the stool he was sitting on. The room had one window. The glass was frosted so you couldn't see out, and the frame was covered with heavy wire mesh so you couldn't get out. I'm sorry you had to see me this way, Jacko, his father said. And we'll end it right there and pick up on our next time. Have a good day, guys. Bye.